right, we are live. Thank you. Huh? Talk to me. You say something under your breath.
It's a fan on.
Oh. All right. All right, we have a few people coming in now. Just want to thank y'all for watching tonight. Got Miss Williams coming in. We got Brother Charles Brown coming in. Just want to thank y'all for joining us. Like surely faithful people to Marriage Mondays. We're just gonna wait a few minutes and allow other people to come in. Good morning, Miss Smith. How you doing, Miss Johnson? How y'all doing?
Good evening.
Okay. When I say good morning, that's what we do. Just a little.
We're not redoing the morning.
No, good evening. All right, so we got a few people still coming in. All right, we're just here tonight to improve your relationships based on the information that we have that's been given to us through the Holy Spirit and just the Word of God to allow you to evaluate and even do some things that will help you improve your relationship. We just want to thank you. Of course, I'm Nick, and this is my wife, Trina Brinson. We're here on Marriage Mondays by appointment from our Bishop, Finance Bush Jr., and Lady Denise Bush, who has given us the platform to do this through our church ministry. And we just want to thank them for allowing us to do that. We just want to thank you for joining us and doing what it is to improve your relationships on this little bit of time that you give us on Monday night. And I just want to say thank you for watching.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that's my cue to say something. We do very much appreciate you all tuning in and letting us know that our efforts are not in vain. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask about the comments.
Okay.
So while we're getting started, I see Granny M is here. That's my mother. And she's probably our biggest fan. So we appreciate her support and her constantly funneling people in to take part in this ministry that we are assigned to do. So the more people we reach, the more we feel like what we're doing is reaching the people that it needs to reach, and that we're doing what God has assigned us to do. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh,
yes.
So we've been doing this since, we've been doing Marriage Mondays since March, when we all were put on lockdown, before churches closed. At the time that we were looking at churches closing, we were given this assignment to, as a part of the church ministry, for us to try to help keep the church connected. So we were charged with the task of doing something to reach people, even when the church is closed, to help support marriages. And so this is our way of fulfilling that obligation or meeting that challenge that was presented to us by our leaders. And so we've been doing that since March, and we've really enjoyed it. We feel like we reach hundreds of people every week. At least that's how, the number of views is always a few hundred. And so we know that people are hearing the message that we're putting out. What I would like is some feedback, some feedback from you all as to what tidbits or nuggets of information have been helpful to you specifically. We're not asking you to air your dirty laundry. We just want to know what are some things that you have learned over these last 6 or 7 months that we've been on pretty much every week. I think maybe one week there was a holiday and we weren't on. Maybe twice that happened. But other than that, we're on every single Monday. And a lot of you have been faithful in watching. But we just really would like to know, how is this ministry and these lessons, how has it helped you? What have you been able to take away and apply specifically to your relationship? So we just kind of want some feedback. So we want y'all to put that in the comments, even throughout the night. You can think about it, kind of as the lesson is going on, and even people that are watching it in replay. just put in the comments some things that you've learned. We'll go back and look at those comments, and we'll be interested to see what people are taking away, what's most useful. We've talked about, we talked about spiritual warfare more recently.
Yep.
We've talked about communication. We've talked about love languages.
Forgiveness.
We've talked about forgiveness. What else have we talked about? Did we talk about roles?
We talked about roles earlier.
Yeah, that's always a good lesson, talking about roles within the relationship. We've talked about friendships, those friendships that may be toxic to the relationship, and those that are a part of a good support system to your relationship. But we just want to know what is working for you, or what have you gained? Why do you keep watching? Is there something that's helping you? That's really what we want to know, is what's helping you. What's your takeaway? Just give us some feedback.
Okay. And I totally support that the effort that you would give to give us that feedback and allow us to see where we may be helping and where we actually may be need to support more.
Right.
About things that we need to talk about. So just continue to just keep watching. If you don't have any comments tonight, just while we're on, you can always go back and put the comments in. So, whatever we've done to assist you in basically improving your relationship with your spouse, and may even be with God. So we just want to just continue to just ask that you give us that feedback as we continue to do these lessons.
Or suggestions for additional topics, that's welcome as well.
All right, with that said, let's get into tonight's topic. It's along the lines of communication, but it's one of those things that we're going to ask you: how do you keep your lines of communication open with your spouse? Me and Trina have been married 21 years, going on 22, and after being around somebody for most of that time, day in and day out, the conversation can maybe get a little lax. You may not think you have anything to say anymore. But there are always things you could talk about in your relationship to keep the lines of communication open. And tonight we're just going to address a couple of questions. We have about 4 or 5 questions that you can ask that can cause you to have conversation with your spouse. That will be more than a yes or no answer.
Right.
These are things where you may have to sit down a little bit and talk maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, based on where you are in your relationship. So we're going to ask these questions, and of course there are others that you can ask to cause the same response that you want to get conversation out of your spouse. So we're going to address those questions and maybe give a little feedback about why you should ask that question. All right. So tonight's first question is: how did you feel loved this past week? Ask your other spouse that question. How did I make you feel loved? What did I do? And then another question that goes with that: if I didn't, what can I do? So when you ask that particular question, you know if you're addressing that particular person's love language. And it can cause a conversation, because you may have done something to, quote unquote, empty the love tank and didn't even know it. So that question can be asked. You have anything to say there?
Mm-hmm. It's important to be honest in answering that question too. Sometimes, depending on the person's personality or kind of how they've moved through life, they may be hesitant to give a truly honest answer. And that is the enemy of your relationship, is having that block in communication. So this is an opportunity to be honest, and to be honest in receiving information. Mm-hmm. So if your spouse gives you an answer that's honest, you have to be ready to receive that honesty, and not to be defensive about it, but to receive it with the mindset that you're trying to make your relationship better. And you want your spouse to be honest, whether it's what you want to hear or not. You have to be open to communicating honestly. And honestly, a good time to start having that kind of communication really is any time. Mm-hmm. But it's ideal to start during the dating process. When you're dating someone seriously, it is critical for you to go ahead and start having open conversations about the relationship, instead of assuming your spouse should know how you feel, or assuming that your spouse should know what makes you happy or makes you feel loved. I remember Pastor Evelyn from the other church ministry, she used to say that's playing dirty. You know, for you to think that somebody can read your mind and hold them accountable to that. Openly communicate what it is that you want. That doesn't mean that your spouse doesn't love you. It means they don't know. And them not knowing doesn't mean they don't love you. It means they're not you and they don't know.
Right.
And so when you make them aware, it gives them an opportunity to know and an opportunity for them to learn and to grow, and for them to implement those things that you would enjoy.
Right. So when you're honest in answering that question, that creates a line of communication that opens the conversation up for deeper conversation between you and your spouse. When you do that, that makes the other person feels appreciated. When you're talking to them about how can I make you feel more loved in this relationship, that means you're opening yourself up to do what they need, not necessarily what make you feel loved. And you may need to communicate that with them too. But you need to let that person know, I'm thinking about you and what I need to do to fill up your love tank, so you can have that reassurance that, I'm thinking about you and I'm considering you.
Yeah.
All right.
That alone strengthens the relationship. Just knowing that your spouse is consciously thinking about and working towards building a relationship, as well as you yourself, making sure that you're being conscious and intentional about your relationship.
Okay. Another question that can cause a lot of conversation in your marriage, and I know especially true for us, is what does your upcoming week look like?
Yeah, we ask that a lot.
Yes. That's one thing, and that's when you get together your schedules and all the things you have to do with the job and the church,
kids.
The kids, all that has a part. Who's cooking dinner? When? Where you getting it from? All that conversation works itself out into an open line of communication, because that could take a little time.
Well, and that, for us, that ruins the week sometimes when we don't have that conversation of what does your upcoming week look like. Sometimes we're looking at each other for dinner. It's like, oh, well, it's your responsibility. I think last Monday, I'm looking around waiting on somebody to have some dinner ready, and he was like, didn't we decide the other week that you were taking Monday? So I'm like, maybe, I don't know. Because it wasn't written down. We hadn't talked about it since the time before that we had talked about it, and we had made some changes, I think, like the week before.
Yeah.
And that kind of threw things off in my mind. And so we all looking around like, well, we got to have some dinner tonight.
Yeah, we were looking at a cold kitchen is what we were looking at.
Yeah, so we had to make some adjustments. Thank God for DoorDash. So we had, because nobody wanted to go back out either on a Monday night. It's a long day for us. So it does make things more stressful too. And then sometimes it has happened with us to where I come from the store and then I come in the door and he's coming in with a bag of groceries with some of the same items. So I got a gallon of milk. He got a gallon of milk. He bought a loaf of bread. I bought a loaf of bread. And so we end up, because of that lack of communication. So something as simple as, what does your week look like? How are we going to plan out meals? Who's going to take kids where? Those conversations, they really, that's where the warfare comes in. Things like that, they give a lot of potential for there to be strife and, not strife, but just contention between the two of you, and poor communication can lead to a lot of confusion and frustration. So taking care of those details and knowing what's on a person's calendar, your spouse's calendar week to week. I don't want his calendar on my calendar.
No, it wouldn't make sense.
It wouldn't make sense for me. Some people share calendars. If that works for you, then the technology is out there, and that may be a good solution. You may want to have your spouse's calendar on your calendar, the Google Calendar or whatever electronic calendar you use, and vice versa, so that you all can keep up. That's a strategy that may work. That don't work for us. I don't need to know every meeting he has to go to, and I'm sure he don't want to see everything on my calendar either. But there are some things that are important for both of us to know. So even having a household calendar works for some people. Having a physical household calendar and sharing that way, or just having those verbal exchanges so that you know what's coming up. You know, I remember one time, I think over this, I guess before all this COVID stuff happened, he had to go out of town, and it's like the day before, and he was like, "Yeah, I gotta go to so and so tomorrow." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got something XYZ. I got to be out of town for 3 days." And I'm going, "Well, you know, I was not aware of that. That's a problem." So that breakdown in communication, you can prevent that by talking about your schedules on a regular basis.
All right.
It just makes everything go a lot more smoothly over for everybody.
And actually, it prevents some spiritual warfare that you may be going on in your relationship.
Yeah.
Because if you have your calendars planned out and something comes up, there can be an easy adjustment because you know if that other person can take care of what you had planned. Mm-hmm. For instance, like my job, sometimes I have to cover games, like athletic activities after school. But there may have been something that we had planned for me to do with our youngest daughter. So if I look at the calendar, I know that Trina doesn't have anything this afternoon. I'm communicating with her, say, "Well, we know I plan on taking our daughter to this event, but I got this game I got to cover too. Can you do it?" And most times, if she hadn't planned anything in her calendar, she could take care of that, or vice versa. You know, what you got going on this afternoon? Now I'm just working a couple extra hours in the office. Well, I got this. Can you get her? Yeah, I can adjust my schedule at that moment because that wasn't planned time. I was just doing some extra stuff in the office. But if something that I need to take care of her to relieve her, then I can do that. So just being aware of each other's time is for us, especially after school, is important.
Yeah, it's important to be respectful of each other's schedule as well, because it's, you know, if you feel like you are always taking on the extra and that you stretched out and it appears your spouse doesn't participate in those household responsibilities and you feel overwhelmed, just say you as the wife, just as an example, and then if a conflict comes up, it's very easy for that person who feels like they take the bulk of the load to feel like their spouse owes them that to oblige whatever it is that they're asking them to do. But that's really not the case. If you will communicate regularly about what's going on in the house, you'll find that you can help each other out and have things to be more balanced. It doesn't have to be one-sided, because that's where you get into a lot of problems, is when relationships are out of balance. Mm-hmm. And you get what Bishop Bush calls that one person happiness, you know, and then you got the other person miserable or uncomfortable, and nothing's been done to straighten it out because the person that's happy is assuming the other person is happy too. But if you're unhappy, that communicating and talking, asking these questions that we're talking about, that can help bring some awareness to your spouse. And you don't have to be angry in communicating that. You can have just a civil conversation ahead of time to help kind of prevent some of those exchanges that can be heated or full of
contention.
Yeah, what's the word? Like that built up resentment and all that can build from not addressing those issues. So address them bit by bit on a weekly basis, and it keeps them, they don't have a chance to build up and become something, a big problem for you.
Okay. All right, the third thing you can do to create conversation is ask your spouse, and I don't think I've ever really asked this question, how can I pray for you this week? Because I say a prayer for my wife, and, you know, and I ask God, you know, to reveal to me, you know, what's going on with her and how can I pray for her. But just thinking about it, if I just ask her, what can I pray for you this week for? You know, what are you going through, or what are you going to face, and how can I pray for you? I mean, it's really just that simple. I didn't think about it till we started doing this. I mean, just honestly. Yeah. So, yeah, so ask your spouse, you know, how can I pray for you this week, or this day, or this hour? Sometimes they may need it then.
Yeah, and it's important to talk about that, because it's interesting that people can be partners and talk about a lot of things, but not necessarily take the time to really pray together for each other.
Right.
You know, and that's an easy fix. You know, but if you know you have a prayer partner right there in the house with you and someone who you're connected with that closely, that's a great opportunity for you to have that level of support, which can cut down on some of the stress and frustration, and to know that this is somebody who's actually going to pray. Sometimes people say they're going to pray for you and they forget, or they pray for you and, you know, there's never any follow-up on it. But when it's your spouse, you know, hopefully you can rest assured that your spouse is concerned about what you're concerned about and can actually help you from a spiritual perspective, and be your partner with you in the things that you're being challenged with. Two are better than one. So take advantage of having the two of you together. You're stronger to better. No, I said that wrong. You're stronger together. You're better together. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all you have to say about that. Mm-hmm. Okay. One more question you can ask. We have two more that you can ask to kind of continue to get your conversation going between you and your spouse on a weekly basis is, how would you feel loved and encouraged this week? I mean, that's kind of going back to the first one.
Yeah.
We asked, but what can I do to encourage you this week? You know, how can we do that? And, you know, your spouse may say, just continue to pray for me, or just, you know, just pray that I get through this meeting and these meetings that I have, and give me the wisdom, help me pray for the wisdom for me.
Well, it doesn't even have to be prayer. Mm-hmm. I mean, because that was the last one, but right. This one is, how do you feel loved and encouraged? Right. So a lot of people aren't good at asking for what they need to feel loved, but that's a skill that's worth developing. Ask for it. That's your spouse. That's somebody you are most intimate with, and having that intimate level of conversation is critical. So be open, be vulnerable. Say that, you know, I need you to help me with something this week, if that's your love language. Or I really need a good date night this week. I need a break. Mm-hmm. I need you to, you know, take the kids and the dog and everybody and just give me, you know, my Saturday free. Or, you know, I need a break. I need to go out of town. You know, let's plan on going somewhere. Whatever it is that you need to help you feel loved and encouraged, know that your spouse is your partner in that. And so be willing to say what it is that you really need. Sometimes I need help with work stuff. Sometimes I have, you know, a bulk of work that needs to be done, and I don't want to fool with the fact that the internet is acting up. And so for me, sometimes it's, I need you to get this internet situation handled for me. I don't necessarily need no details. I don't want no details. I just need it working so that it's not an obstacle for me. And those types of things help. You know, I need you to, you know, can you make sure that if you live somewhere where it snows, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, make sure the driveway is shoveled off or whatever. It doesn't have to be so deep, you know. It can be whatever is necessary that's going to make you feel like your spouse is there for you. Or being encouraged sometimes just verbally, you know, knowing that your spouse is aware of the challenges that you're facing that week. And just them, you know, giving you an extra hug if that's what you need. Making sure that, or them coming to some event that you might have. Being there to support you. Maybe you got to speak in front of some people. And, you know, you just kind of want to have your spouse's face there. Whatever it is, don't be afraid to share that, because that is intimacy.
Right.
And that's necessary in marriage. That's not the place for you to be. Marriage is not the place for you to be insecure. It's not the place for you to be inhibited. You want to be able to be open and free and vulnerable with your spouse. And you also want to be able to be that place for your spouse as well.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, and add to that is, back when we were talking about the topic of praying for your wife or asking what they need prayer for, just keep that in mind. And the day that they needed that, you know, the next morning, say, you know, boo, you got that today now. You know, you're going to get through that day because God got your back. And, you know, I'm there for you. And see, that's that level of encouragement that somebody may need to get over the hump for the day.
Mm-hmm. Or even a text.
Yeah,
just, you know,
something.
Some type of, you know, and whatever kind of encouragement you need. Just be willing to ask for that.
All right. The last one we're going to address is, how would you feel pursued in sex and intimacy this week? What can I do to build that up? Or what can we do to build that up to make sure that our sex life is going to be fulfilling to both of us at the end of the week or the next day or that day? What do we need to do to fill up our love tanks so when we do come together intimately and sexually, that it's fulfilling for both of us? And just asking the question can help. And when you do ask the question, set aside some time for each other so you can learn how to fill each other's tank up. The thing about it is, if you address all the questions that we've had tonight, you're going to have a level of intimacy that can build towards the sexual connection that y'all need in order to fulfill yourselves sexually and intimately.
And to be honest with that too. Be open and honest in that area as well. That's important.
All right. So just continue to and the thing about it, with the area of sex and intimacy, it needs to take priority. You need to learn how to do that over a period of time and learn to grow, because after years of marriage, you got to learn and keep learning each other's bodies and what each other like, because that person you're with is going to change. The change will come. You're going to get older. You're going to get more mature. So the things that made you feel the way you felt when you were young may not be the thing that kick it on now. Is that a good way to put that?
Yeah.
I hope. But anyway, so that's just what I want to say about that. So be mindful of how to make the other person feel engaged in the way of wanting sex from them and having the intimacy that it takes to make both partners fulfill. All right. So, you got anything else? Those were the five.
I think we covered. I will say these questions really are just to get you thinking and to give you their guidance. So you have the flexibility, of course, to consider other questions that you may want to discuss. And even when you discuss these questions, that's kind of up for conversation as well. You know, is this something you want to talk about on a certain day of the week, every week? You know, maybe recapping at the end of the week or at the beginning of the week, maybe on a Sunday, or whenever you guys schedule. You need to schedule time. I don't know why scheduling is such a kind of, people think of it as a bad word within marriage, but when you've got two active adults, if you don't schedule in what's necessary for your marriage, it's not likely to happen by chance. And then it becomes a raging fire, a sense of urgency, because the problem is so big, and then you have to shut things down to deal with your marriage. You can prevent that by thinking ahead, dealing with these issues on a weekly basis, so that you can kind of keep things calm, keep the communication going, and you could deal with the problems and the challenges that arise bit by bit, instead of having to put out this huge raging fire of a problem that may have developed due to neglecting your relationship.
Right.
So you do want to ask, have a chance to ask questions. Date night may be, depending on how your date nights go. I mean, I don't know, maybe some of y'all are so romantic you don't be talking, you're just into each other. But for us, we do a lot of talking. Usually, we usually have some kind of meal most of the time. On our date night, and that is a good time for us to talk about us, you know, right. Not always about family business. Sometimes it's just us and appreciating life, appreciating each other, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, but it's just a time for us to enjoy each other. But we have literally sat down with a list of questions and have talked about. I think 1 year on our anniversary, we had, you know, specific questions that we were talking about, you know, down the road. How do we expect things to be? Are we where we want to be right now? How are we going to get where we want to be? But that was a conversation that was good for us to have.
Right.
And we did have a list of questions. I mean, y'all might not be as nerdy as we are, or studious, but that's what worked. For us. That's not all the time, but sometimes that is the case. So for us, date night can be a time to be flexible and to have some of those. It's not a time to deal with a lot of conflict. but it can be a time to have just some conversation. Some of these questions lend themselves to nice conversation between each other, not necessarily, it's not conflict resolution.
Yeah, just like this past weekend, we had a date night, and we were down by the river, and we made a kind of a picnic, down by the river, and after we finished our meal, we were just sitting there, and a jet flew over, and question came to my mind. We were talking about the houses and the water, and just enjoying each other's company, and I said, if we had a private jet, where would you go right now? What would you do? And we were like, then we started thinking about some of our better vacations. And what did you say?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? You remember having a conversation though?
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember what I said.
We were talking about places we've been that we enjoyed, and I was like, well, I'll go back to New York. That place was entertaining.
The Keys.
Oh, I said the Keys first because I was in that water frame of mind then. And then I was like, then we started talking about vacations, and I'm like, I would like to go back to New York. And her best vacation we've ever been on was our honeymoon, which was Jamaica. So, just talking about that, you can gauge your partner. And maybe one day, I'm saying it live now, but, one day you can come in the house and be like, I just got us all exclusive paid tickets to go to Jamaica during this week. So that would let her know that I was listening to her heart. I ain't ruined nothing just then, but that was for instance.
So that was anticlimactic for me.
Yeah. Yes. I didn't want to put that out there.
Disappointment.
But I'm saying though, that's a way that you can build that intimacy with your partner and listen to things of the heart. So I think we've fulfilled our obligation tonight.
We did, but I am a little disappointed. Nobody gave me any feedback on what they have learned from the classes over the last several weeks. I'm very interested in that. So I'm hoping you all will humor me and give us some feedback about what, and some of y'all weren't on at the beginning, but we were asking for you all to just put in the comments some things that you've learned over the last 6 or 7 months that we've been doing this class, and some things that have stuck out in your mind, or some just what you picked up from watching this, watching these Facebook Live events that we've had every week. We've had quite a few over the last several months. We're on almost every Monday, so that's quite a few episodes, if you will. So I'm just very interested in knowing what you all are benefiting from this. If it's, just more awareness of a certain topic, or just general encouragement for your marriage, or if you're learning some strategies and skills that have been helpful to you, or if it's kind of made you think about some things that you hadn't considered that you can do to help your marriage, if you've learned how to do conflict resolution, or if these Facebook Live events have encouraged you to have some conversations with your spouse, maybe on topics that you hadn't considered before. If you've gotten, more consistent with, somebody said, I've learned to keep quiet. That is huge. That was a hard lesson for me. I'm still trying to learn it. It's still hard. But yeah, learning to keep quiet. So I appreciate that. I don't know who that was from, but Jeannie. Yes, Jeannie. I'm right there with you. Yeah. So that's what I'm very interested in knowing, just how it's helped you. We just want to be helpful to you all. And we want to continue to do these. Prayerfully, we can all get back to church at some point, the church building. But I guess we'll have to see as time goes on if this is something we can continue to maintain long term, if it's really helping.
Well, personally, I don't think the building has anything to do with this, because this is Monday night and the church building is not open. Yeah. So it might be one of those things we can keep going.
Okay. People are giving us some information.
So with that said, thank y'all for...
Well, I'm just enjoying the comments, though. Why are you rushing?
It's that time. We know we have a time. We enjoy our people for our amount of time, so they can come back Monday night and we can enjoy them again.
But can we
Don't y'all agree?
Flexible?
Give me a thumbs up if you agree.
They ain't give you no thumbs up. They're giving me comments. Somebody said they learned about conflict resolution. Tiffany Jones, you and your partner are both grown. That was a revelation for me too, Tiffany. I really had to get that understanding that you really do have to let your spouse be grown. And that includes sometimes letting them make mistakes. It's not your job to shelter them from every possible mistake that they can make. You can confer with them and consult with them as an adult, but adults make adult decisions.
Right.
And it's not your job. Being a parent is one job. Being a spouse is a totally different job. They are not the same. Yeah.
All right.
Well, wait. Somebody said something else. Okay.
See,
I appreciate the comments. Yeah. Well, this is what I wanted with some feedback. I just want to know what people need. Be patient with me. All right. Learn to new communication tools. That's from Willie. And Jenny said being quiet. Yeah. Thank y'all so much. I needed that. Thank y'all for humoring me. So we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We enjoy. This is an assignment for us, but we enjoy it as well. And it's so helpful to us as a couple too. It keeps us accountable. It keeps us working and growing. Oh, Sheena got a long answer. I like Sheena. She's teachery like me. These have been great. This has given us some time together on Monday nights. Good. To worship together. That's awesome. Continue learning together and growing together. Thank you, Sheena. Thank you. That's awesome. Awesome.
Miss Francine Brown got one.
Okay. Too. Oh, it went fast. What did it say? You got it on yours?
There it is.
Okay. These marriage lessons have been great, and the communication is very important to me. Yeah. Listen to each other and understand what is being communicated. Confessing on communicate. Yep. Awesome.
Well, since my wife is putting it out and y'all have entertained her, we'll just let her continue to read the comments y'all putting in.
Okay. Rhonda said, I learned a new way to use communication skills and not just be quiet. Rhonda, that's one that I know Bishop, he emphasizes so much, especially towards wives. Don't be, it's a balance. Mm-hmm. We got people like me and Jeannie that want to be too much and too loud. And then you got another type of woman that's too quiet. And finding that balance is, there's an art to it.
Yep.
And it takes the help of the Holy Spirit. It takes some humility, in order for you to really understand how to go about communicating with your spouse in a way that's not too dominating and in a way that's not too passive. Yeah, because both can be equally dangerous. Right. So you have to have a voice in the relationship, but you don't want to silence your partner's voice by your voice being too loud and too strong also. So thank y'all so much. So
I yielded to the Holy Spirit and let her have her time to see what y'all were talking about. So
wasn't it helpful?
I was obedient to the Holy Spirit because I am a stern timekeeper.
Really?
So yes, don't do that. But anyway, thank y'all. From the lady and the coach. We love y'all. Good night.